everybody, and welcome to the Relay Lightning Workshop. Today we'll take some time together to discuss about Lightning, what is Lightning, and why we are so much excited about it at Relay, and what are the challenges that we are facing at Relay around the Lightning topic. So obviously, since the beginning, when Lightning has been a question, a recurring question that we hear every day. And obviously, we are super excited about Lightning, and we are doing some good progress. And today, I would like to take some time with you. And our special guest, Gigi, is with us today. I'll just go through a few slides. And at the end, we'll take some time with Gigi to discuss and also has his valuable input around the Lightning topic. All right, so let's get started quickly about ourselves and why we believe so much in Bitcoin. We obviously believe in a future of hyper-Bitcoinization, and we want to take part of this new future we are building. So there are currently two words, the one we call the old world with fiat currencies and the new world, the new financial system with Bitcoin. And we expect a lot of people and a lot of money to be flowing into Bitcoin from the old world to the new world. And at Relay, what we do is acting as a bridge between these two worlds. So we want to be there to hold hands to anyone who would like to go from the old world to the new world. How do we do this? How do we bring so many people to Bitcoin? We start with a problem. The first thing we need to do is to make sure that it's clear to everyone or as many people as possible why the current system, the current financial system is broken. And the second one is to bring a solution that already exists, which is Bitcoin, and also make sure to explain why it is such a good alternative. And finally, that's what we do at Relay. We provide this access to Bitcoin to as many people as possible. And here in the slides, as we mentioned, normal people or newbies to be able to easily buy and hold Bitcoin. That's about what we do at Relay, and related to the Bitcoin world. There is another super exciting topic in the Bitcoin world that is called Lightning. I will take a few slides now to go through Lightning, what it is, and why we are so excited about it. And when done, we'll take some minutes with Gigi to discuss also about Lightning. So what is Lightning? Let's start with a problem that we consider Bitcoin having a problem. And maybe it's not the right way to say problem, but in terms of transactions, due to the way new blocks are mined, some transactions can take quite some time to be confirmed by miners, from 10 to 20 minutes. So 10 minutes is the time for the next block. And as a solution, OGs came up with a second layer. So Bitcoin is the main layer. They came up with a solution at the second layer that would allow users to instantly be able to send Bitcoin to each other with a very low cost fee, and all of this recorded off-chain. So all these Lightning transactions happening on layer 2 are not recorded on the main Bitcoin network. This Lightning project, let's call it project, has been first proposed in 2015 and launched in 2018. So it's still a pretty young technology, but doing a lot of progress lately, and I will come to that in a few slides. Since it's been launched, it's been constantly growing, and it has at least grew up to 5,500 Bitcoin. So how Lightning works is there should be an amount of Bitcoin on the Lightning network, and then this amount can be used to exchange between different users. And this 5,500 Bitcoin is actually the minimum that we are aware of. There is also some part that we cannot really estimate because of what is called private channels on the Lightning Network. That's about Lightning. Why is it so exciting? And what are the use cases, the current use cases, and what kind of future use cases we can just be dreaming about with Lightning? So currently, Lightning is used a lot for tipping, donations, and micropayments between people. Thanks to the instant settlement, it's relatively straightforward to send a few satoshis to whoever you want via a simple QR code. At the same time, this brings a lot of people to the value for value models. This means that you would share something that is valuable to you against something else that you also still think is valuable. Let's take the example of zapping on Nostr. It's like the like button on Twitter, but when you zap, you can also send some sats to the owner, the person who wrote that note. Same with podcasting 2.0, applications like Fountain, where you can be listening to a podcast and bring back some value, give back some value by paying some satoshis to that podcast. It is obviously already used for everyday payments in shops and bars. You will see everyday people tweeting about how they're paid their beer with Lightning. So that's getting very, very common. And for fast cross-border remittance payments, obviously here Bitcoin, the main layer, also works pretty well for cross borders. But in terms of speed, Lightning is much better. What about future use cases? So in terms of future use cases, the door is pretty much widely open. So there are a lot of applications that we can call microfinance applications that would act super fast, or solutions like lending that we could use also for Lightning. Machine to machine payments. Lightning can be programmed, so you can trigger any action, let's say, via a Lightning payment. For example, I recently saw a tweet of a user who could control the blinds, opening and closing the blinds just via a Lightning transaction. And finally, internet native payments in various online applications. So we are actually getting close to that, but this requires some third parties. But at some point, we can get to a level where at the protocol, we can directly have payment solutions based on Lightning. And it's not on that slide, but I can clearly see also as a future Lightning use cases at Relai, how it could work with our users buying Bitcoin and receiving it instantly. And at the same time, the person they use the referral code will also get the referral earnings instantly as soon as the payment has proceeded. So again, let's see why at Relai we also care about Lightning, and in general why Lightning is also very interesting. So it's a layer 2 protocol, this we already mentioned. Very, very fast settlement. So it's in terms of maybe not even seconds, depending on the transaction. Very cheap, sometimes even free transactions. That's also a very big point for Lightning. And it's also very important for circular economy. So on Lightning works with channels. So one needs to open a channel between two users to be able to exchange Bitcoin in that channel. And the idea is that all these channels can be connected, and in the end, this will create a huge circular economy where everybody can exchange with each other. And in between, you would also have some merchants where you would be able to pay, and like just a big circular economy. So all of this sounds really good and super exciting, but why aren't we already on Lightning at Relai? That's the question you might be coming up with. So there are two big challenges. I will just cite them now, and then looking forward to discuss with you, Gigi, at the end. The two challenges we are currently facing at Relai are the first one is the non-custodial aspect, and the second is the liquidity aspect. So on the non-custodial aspect, there is still a bit of work to be done on Lightning. Not that it's not working non-custodially, it is, But when I say progress, I mean in terms of user experience. One would need still a bit of technical knowledge or overall general Lightning knowledge to be able to use it in a non-custodial way. That's why today custodial Lightning solutions are much more common and more used compared to non-custodial Lightning. At Relay, we started as a non-custodial wallet, and we are planning to stay non-custodial. Therefore, it's very important that we can provide a Lightning solution that would also be non-custodial. And then there is the liquidity aspect. So as mentioned earlier, Lightning works with what are called channels between two parties. A channel is first created, and then these two users can exchange in that channel without any problem instantly and without fees if they want to. So dealing already with channels can be quite tricky, depending on the number of channels one is opening. They require some maintenance, and that would be quite a lot of work if we were, for example, at Relay just to open one channel from our node to all our users. Not only the number of channels, we would also need to put in, let's say, some Bitcoin in all these channels to exchange with our users. So at Relay, the majority of our orders are buy orders, so our users are hodlers, and we keep sending them Bitcoin, but we don't receive that much Bitcoin from them. In that sense, it breaks a bit the circular economy aspect of Lightning, where the channels will end up being completely not balanced properly, I would say. So we would just keep sending Bitcoin, and we would need also probably to put a bit more Bitcoin in advance. If it's a user who has a weekly or a monthly, we would need to think a bit more long term and create a bigger channel. If not, we might need to top up the channel, which is currently not possible. Hopefully, at some point with splicing, this might also be possible. But we cannot afford just to open thousands of channels with hundreds or thousands of Bitcoin in it to all our users. So that's our second biggest problem. But we are getting there. So progress is being made. We are super excited to see how Lightning is progressing, because in the last year there has been tremendous work put into Lightning. And for us, since the beginning, we've been in touch with the big players. For example, Breeze, with their Breeze SDK being implemented now, Greenlight from Blockstream, the Synonym group, the Voltage team, Lightspark. These are all a few examples. We've always been in touch from the beginning. They were always aware of our intentions to have Lightning, obviously, and they knew exactly what we needed. And obviously, we were not the only one with such problems. So in the last few months, I've seen quite a lot of progress being made on these two aspects: the non-custodial aspects in terms of user experience, and the liquidity aspects with what is called Lightning service providers, which we can discuss later about. Why is it also important for us is lately, beginning of May, we've seen crazy fees on chain. And they were crazy at the time, but I believe these fees will over time become the normal network. The Bitcoin network is made to be working with high fees. We just need to get used to it. And at Relay, we also cover the on-chain fees of every transaction. In our 1 to 2.5% fee, everything is all inclusive. The on-chain fee, the withdrawal fee, the exchange fees are all part of this fee. So we are obviously affected by such changes. So going to Lightning would also mean that we would pay less fees as Relay. And last but not least, this has been our promise since the beginning, that you would be able to get your first Bitcoin or sats in 1 minute. You can currently onboard to the app, create your first order, even pay instantly now with credit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay in less than a minute. This part is all fully done in less than a minute, but then the on-chain transaction is what takes a bit of time. And with Lightning, we would then be able to fulfill our promise, which is get your first Bitcoin in 1 minute. And then there is this continuous progress aspect. I will not talk too much about Arc right now because it's still it's an exciting project, but there is not much concrete SDK or API we could even play with. So it's still in the research level, I would say. But there are a few other projects that are trying to, some being compatible with Lightning, some maybe not, but are trying to bring Lightning, maybe if I may say, to the next level. But again, this is just an open discussion that we could keep for the end. And with that, that's all about the Relay / Lightning integration topic. And here I would like to give the floor to you, Gigi, for a few words, and we can then discuss a bit around the few topics I mentioned. I would love to have your input in these different topics.
All right, awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for walking through that presentation. And I can't wait for more services and auto DCA services like yours, exchanges, and all the financial products around Bitcoin to integrate Lightning. I think it's about time, and I think now everyone's hand is forced because of, like you mentioned, the high fee environment. And I think it's important for users or also builders that want to kind of build on Bitcoin, build on Lightning, to understand how is Lightning different from on-chain Bitcoin, and what an apt comparison might be. So if you know a little bit about the regular banking system, the fiat financial system, we have, for example, the Bank of International Settlements, and we have interbanking systems like in Europe, it's SEPA, for example, that settles between banks. And on top of that, we have payment processors like, PayPal and Visa and MasterCard and so on. And depending on how bullish you are on Bitcoin, you might want to make the comparison between on-chain Bitcoin and Lightning in a similar way. So on-chain Bitcoin is and always has been a settlement layer. We have a 10-minute block time, and it was never for instant transactions ever. So if a transaction has 0 confirmations, it's not settled according to the Bitcoin network. So you always have to wait at least like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, at least for the next block. And settlement in Bitcoin is probabilistic. So you never have final settlement. That's why, if you spend a lot of money on chain, the go-to measurement is like wait for at least 6 confirmations, and then you can consider it settled, because transaction reversal is so unlikely that like the universe will die of a heat death before this transaction gets reversed. Right. That's basically kind of the idea behind it. The banking system, the fiat banking system, works very, very differently, and basically authorities are what settle. It's not a physics thing that settles, but it is the Bank of International Settlements, or the central server of the SEPA system, and so on. And that's a crucial difference already, that we have digital money in both ways. Like we have a digital euro, like if you use online banking, you use digital money already, but it's not a bearer asset. And that's how Bitcoin is very, very different. So Bitcoin is a digital bearer asset, and this sounds very fancy. What it means is actually that it behaves as if you would have a gold coin. And if I have a gold coin and I give it to you, I don't need a central authority that allows me to do this. It's not a credit instrument. It's not a liability. It's a real thing that I can hand over to you without asking for permission. And then I don't have it anymore. And you cannot reverse this. Like I would have to convince you to give the gold coin back. There is no way to reverse this transaction. That's why Bitcoin is a settlement system, and it's a bearer asset. And that's very, very important, because Bitcoin is the first digital bearer asset in the world. Something like this has never existed before. And that's why I always come back to the very, very basics. 12 words in your head. It's not like a password. You don't have a password in your head, like a password that gives you access to an account that's somewhere. But the 12 words in your head is the actual money itself. And that's why you can have 12 words in your head. You can strip down naked, cross a border, and you have your wealth intact, and no one can steal it from you. That's why Bitcoin is so insanely powerful. And with the digital bearer asset and the settlement system that Bitcoin is, we have this scalability problem, because Bitcoin requires global consensus, and global consensus is reached approximately every 10 minutes. And that's what makes Bitcoin quote unquote slow. But like Hal Finney knew this from the very beginning. It was like a couple of weeks after Bitcoin was released. He was like, okay, this will never scale to 10 billion people. So we will have other systems, and this will basically replace the Bank of International Settlement, and other layers will be built on top, and we will have Bitcoin banks and so on. And so if you're really bullish on Bitcoin, the way you can think about it is like Bitcoin is the asset itself. Bitcoin is like gold, and the Bitcoin system, the settlement system, replaces the Bank of International Settlements. Lightning replaces SEPA. So Lightning replaces the, the system that settles between smaller banks, basically. And we can already know, I mean, we are still very early in Bitcoin, as you guys know, but we already know, for example, that it's impossible to onboard 10 billion people onto Lightning. So Lightning doesn't scale indefinitely because it still needs to open and close channels on chain. So it needs to, touch the settlement layer directly. And as you said, like opening and closing a channel, it takes a little bit of time. So both block time and block space is very, very scarce. And so we can already know if hyper-Bitcoinization happens and 10 billion people use Bitcoin, we will need additional layers on top of Lightning, additional systems like Fedimint with different trust trade-offs and so on. And that's also a very important insight, that you don't have solutions, you only have trade-offs. The trade-off in the traditional financial system is always trust. You're trusting a third party, and that makes sometimes things very convenient, but you can always be deplatformed. Your accounts can be closed or frozen. The trust can be broken. We run into problems like, fractional reserve and all those other shenanigans. And with Bitcoin, there are other trade-offs. So the settlement layer of Bitcoin has a trade-off, for example, of the 10-minute block time and how fast transactions can be settled. Lightning has a trade-off that is related to liquidity. So as you mentioned, Lightning transactions are instant. So it can't be faster than Lightning, because if you have a direct channel between two parties and you send a Lightning transaction, it settles at the speed of light. So nothing can be faster than Lightning. But the trade-off is at another place. It is you need liquidity in the Lightning network for the Lightning network to work. So you need to basically lock up a certain amount of Bitcoin to be used on Lightning. And the way I explain it sometimes is, some people know this app. It's called Splitwise. So if you go on holiday with your friends, everyone installs this app. And you just, at the end of the holiday, you settle. It's basically you input all the expenses into the app, and it's like, someone pays for groceries and someone else pays for dinner and someone else pays for an amusement park ride. And the app calculates everything, who owes what to whom. And at the end, you settle. And that's basically how Lightning works as well. So that's why you can have basically infinitely many transactions. And also they're infinitely fast, like they settle at the speed of light. And when the channel is closed, like when your business, so to speak, is done, at whatever point, it settles back to the settlement layer. And that's very, very novel, that you have a bearer asset, a digital bearer asset that you can use for instant settlement. And that's why Strike, for example, and other companies use it for, like you mentioned, remittance payments, and because neither Bitcoin nor Lightning know any geographical borders, you can use it beautifully for cross-border payments. And what I'm very excited about, and it's also something you mentioned, is value for value and basically cyberspace native payment techniques. So we already have with Podcasting 2.0 streaming money. So every second or every minute or every 10 seconds, you can stream actual money. You can stream pieces of super gold through the internet for listening to a podcast, for watching a YouTube video, for those kind of things. And that has me terribly excited because it is permissionless. It's not PayPal credits. And that's also something that's very, very important to understand. Every legacy system that does payments is a credit system. It's not a money system. It works only on credit. So all these instruments are credit instruments. If you're sending euros from your bank account to my bank account, you're sending credit. It's all credit, and with credit comes counterparty risk, and with credit comes KYC, because if you're dealing with credit, you need to know who you're dealing with, because the credit can always go bad. If you're not credit worthy, or if the counterparty, goes away because it's not a bearer instrument, you need to know who you're dealing with, and you need to only deal with people that have proper credit ratings and so on. And so that's how the KYC stuff creeps in. It's not that everyone is evil. It's that you actually need to know who you're dealing with to have this system work. You don't need KYC if you're dealing with gold coins. That's what money does. That's something really interesting, by the way. The German word for money, Geld, comes from the fact that money is used for settlement, because you tally things up, and once you make a money transfer, then it counts. And in German, you say jetzt gilt's, and from gelten, Geld derives, which is the German word for money. And so we already, as a society, learned this thousands of years ago that you use money to extinguish credit, and you use money proper to, finalize the dealings. And that's both what Bitcoin and Lightning does. And so once you understand this properly, you can build very novel things, like you mentioned on Nostr, the SAPs and so on. You don't need to scan your passport. You don't need to know who you're dealing with, because you're dealing with Satoshis, you're dealing with money proper, not credit. And you can just SAP sats around at the speed of light for whatever purpose. You can unlock content, maybe you can buy items, you can, tip someone, you can do all kinds of things. You can send little notes, like it's basically an old idea to counter spam. So send someone, a direct message or an email, and you only open those that have more than 1,000 Satoshis attached, so to speak. And so you can do all kinds of cool things with it. And I'll stop rambling now, because that was like my Lightning overview. But I'm one more thing maybe. The really cool thing about Lightning, and this will also improve, is Lightning addresses. That you have something that looks like an email address, and you can just send money to it. And it's a protocol. It's not like, a PayPal handle or a cash tag or something like that. It's something that won't go away. Like, email addresses are still around, and email addresses will still be around once Google goes bankrupt and Gmail doesn't exist anymore. That's the beauty about protocols, that they're built to last. They're not attached to companies that have to keep themselves alive and that will go bankrupt. And so Bitcoin is a protocol, Lightning is a protocol. The beautiful thing about it is that it's interoperable and everyone uses the same standard. Every service speaks the same language, so to speak. And now we have Lightning addresses, which is just something short and memorable that you can use to send someone money. And in the future, we will have even, better improvements that take care of the shortcomings of the Lightning addresses with Vault 12 reusable invoices and so on, for example. But I think everything is going in the right direction. You also mentioned splicing and other improvements that will make working with Lightning way easier. And so I would say the future is bright, and the next couple of years are going to be built on Lightning.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gigi. I really liked your similarity with the email in general, the email addresses, the Lightning addresses. I'm super excited about the Lightning addresses. I really like what Sailor did with having their email addresses being all of them a Lightning address as well. This is super exciting. We should do that, by the way, at Relai very soon. Just maybe to go back to the challenges we are facing. So you already mentioned, you talked a bit about the liquidity aspect. I have maybe one question around it. We see lately a lot of Lightning service providers being built. So what do you think about this, and how do you see the future of liquidity on the Lightning network? And maybe a few words about the non-custodial aspect, because for us it's quite a challenge. Our users are newbies. So if you would ask 90% of our users, they wouldn't say we want Lightning, but they would say we want much faster settlement. We want to receive, we just paid, we want to see our Bitcoin. So for them, as in Lightning doesn't mean a lot, but for us, this is exactly what we need for almost instant settlement. But we are a bit far when it comes to user experience for the non-custodial part of Lightning. So maybe a few words about these two topics.
Yeah, so the Lightning service providers, I think it will be a bigger and bigger thing, very much like you need to work with an internet service provider to access the internet. You could do everything your own. You could run, your own everything and become your own internet service provider. It's possible, but it's hard. And I think for Lightning, it will be similar. most people will not run their own node, provide their own liquidity and so on, and manage their own channels. Even though also this gets easier over time. So there will be tools that automate a lot of this, and it is already easier than it used to be. But I really like the model of Breeze and others that position themselves as Lightning service providers and basically do all the liquidity and channel management for their users for a fee. And I think that's basically how all useful financial services and products will be built. You'll pay a small fee depending, on what kind of service you're requesting, and the service provider will take care of the heavy lifting for you. I think, with all that being said, I think that non-custodial Lightning use will become easier as well, thanks to developments around Greenlight, for example, that you already mentioned. And the idea is basically that you have, to interface with Bitcoin, you need to interface with a node. And in the best case, it's your own node. But it's not everyone will run their own node. That's just, that's just how it is. And for Lightning, it's the same. To interface with the Lightning network, you need to interface with a Lightning node. And the idea of Greenlight is that you use a service provider that runs a node for you in the cloud and spins the node up really quickly in 10 milliseconds or something. And it makes it really easy also from a software development perspective to build stuff for users in a self-sovereign way. And again, it's a different trade-off. It's a different trust relationship in the sense that you're trusting someone else, a service provider, with your node, but you're not trusting someone else with your keys. And that's the important part. So the keys are on your device, and it's full self-sovereign use in the sense that no one can take your money away from you. No one, can do transactions in your name, those kind of things. And I think we will see a lot more developments in that direction that either use Greenlight directly or are very similar to Greenlight, where you can just access and interface with the Lightning network very quickly, very easily. You pay a very small fee, and you're still self-sovereign from the key point of view. So you hold your own keys, and it's your money. No one can take it away from you. And I would like to, see more services like this. And I think the incentives are aligned for apps and services and developers to use this and build these things out in a bigger and more meaningful way.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the example that you gave with Greenlight, and I'm a big fan of how Roy puts it in a way that he mentioned the idea of what they're building with the Breeze SDK is see your Lightning node as a credit card. So every time you go to a different app, you were not supposed to use, or they will not ask you to use a different credit card. But right now there are silos of different apps, all of them using a different Lightning balance, different nodes and all. And you always need some onboarding, separate onboarding in all of these different apps. Whereas with the solution they are coming up with the Breeze SDK and Greenlight, they work together. Then you would just have one Lightning balance, and you can just plug in every Lightning wallet or Lightning app to that balance and use it for everything, basically.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's the right model.
For the sake of time, maybe.
Sorry, I have a big delay, so I'll let you have the closing words.
No, I was about to ask. So please go ahead with. I really would like to hear also your feedback around that topic, and maybe as a closing word, what is the aspect that excites you the most in Lightning for the coming year? What feature would you like to see implemented, and that you're like, oh gosh, I really wish we can get there with Lightning?
All right. So I think what I'm most excited about is seeing the things that are already on the horizon implemented more widely. So I'm really excited about the Breeze SDK and Greenlight. We talked about that already. I think loop in and loop out is still underused. I think splicing makes a lot of sense, and I hope I hope it works as well as I think it will. We will see. It's still not implemented widely. widely at all. And also, speaking of not implemented widely, we have different Lightning implementations, which is awesome because it's not a consensus layer. We actually have, like 3 different big ones that are implemented: LND, Core Lightning, and async, right? I hope I pronounced it right. And so what I would like to see is Bolt 12 implemented in LND because it's the most widespread implementation in terms of use. And Bolt 12 has some awesome features. I know it's a big standard and there's a lot in there, but with Bolt 12, more widespread implementation and use of Bolt 12, we will have, for example, static QR codes that you can just put somewhere and receive just like a Lightning address, but the downside of the Lightning address is that it's bound to a server, and the Bolt 12 static invoices are not. So it's a static thing on the protocol level, which is way better. And the other thing that I'm very excited about is recurring payments natively on the protocol, because with that you can build a replacement for Patreon and those kind of things, and can do recurring payments for subscriptions for all kinds of services that currently are only bound to credit cards. And that's basically it comes back to the differentiation between a credit instrument and a bearer instrument, because if you try to build a service for that does recurring payments for gold coins, someone actually has to come to your home and open the drawer and takes out a half a gold coin every week or something. Like that's basically how we would do it for Bitcoin. That's why it doesn't work. It's a bearer instrument, and it cannot do pull payments. With Lightning, it's different because you dedicate Bitcoin towards Lightning already, and you can pre-configure, so to speak, that here is a pool of money that I would like to use, for example, for my Netflix subscription, for my whatever, for my Spotify, like similar services like this, or even for my rent, for my electricity bill and so on. And I'm really excited about these recurring payments and those kind of things that will come with Bolt 12.
Awesome, thank you very much. I never really considered recurring payment, and now I am even more excited about it. That's definitely something I could use. Cool. Well, with that, thank you very much, Gigi, for taking the time and joining me on this Relai Lightning workshop. And thank you all for listening.
Thanks for having me.